What is it that Luke brings at the center position that makes him well adept to play that role?
Well, experience. I mean, and Luke's an alpha. I mean, Luke is a real dude. I'm really happy and thankful and grateful that he's with us. And when we did our research on him with the coaches from Wake Forest, who did a great job with Luke. I mean, he's had really good football coaches, and he's a sponge. But when we did our research on him, he is exactly who they said he was. Which is awesome. I love him. I think he's got tremendous leadership. He leads by example and verbally, right? One of the things that came up during our research of him was Coach said that, you're going to love him because, and understand where I'm coming from with this, is that he's not afraid of confrontational leadership. So what does that mean? Which is a dying art right now. A lot of times people worry about conflict. Conflict can be good, right? As long as it's healthy. You know what I'm saying? But having the ability to really hold somebody accountable, right? And Luke's not afraid to do that, which is a great trait to have, particularly when you got the ball in your hand. And I think everybody on the football team, he's earned their respect. Certainly in our room, for sure, 100% on the offense. I would say everybody on the team respects the guy because of what he's done, on the field as a player and all this stuff, but also in the locker room and just the chemistry that he's brought. He's a glue guy, which is when you can combine a guy who's not afraid to hold somebody accountable, but is also a glue guy. That's what he is. You know what I mean? And obviously he comes from a football family. I mean, going back with his grandfather was the head coach of the Washington Redskins at one time, and his dad played in college. He's got brothers who played in college. I mean, he comes from a football family, so it's in his bloodline. You know what I mean? So,
how much did Adrian help you personally instill stuff in these guys? Obviously, he had a great deal of familiarity with you from a prior institution.
Yeah, the familiarity piece of it was really beneficial for everybody. For everybody in the room. And Adrian, I'm really proud, super proud of Adrian. The growth that he's had over the course of the last, 5 years, because it'll be my 5th year with him. It's been just remarkable, and you're talking about a guy also who had to overcome a season-ending injury. He lost a season to an ACL, which I think really was a true blessing in disguise in the way that he approached it, going through that at UCF, and he's just like really mature, grown up, he's like grown man, you know what I mean? And I think everybody in the room has benefited from his experience in the offense and the leadership that he's provided, as well as just his play on the field has been really, I'm really pleased with him.
Up in the event in Charlotte, Richie mentioned that Micah's got a big personality. He's almost as big as he is as a human being. Is he the same way in the room? What's it like coaching Pettis?
Yeah, Micah's, first of all, he's a tremendously talented dude. He's got again, a lot of experience, it came from a very great offensive system. His O-line coach, a really good friend of mine from Ole Miss, that did a great job with Micah. So he's brings that to the table, right? So he's got a confidence level about him because he's done it, at a high level. So I enjoy working with him. The biggest thing for him right now is just developing that continuity, that we didn't get it in the spring because he was kind of limited in the spring, but now it's going to be about developing the continuity within the unit as well as within the offense, as a whole. Yeah, he's got a great personality. Got some jokes and whatnot, but I enjoy working with him.
Richie also called Gunner, I think, twitchy. I think was the word he used. What is he like as a tackle, and what have you seen from him watching his Vanderbilt?
Yeah, I think
film?
that's a good description. He's explosive in his movements. He's got a sense of urgency, getting out of his stance, right? Which whether you're talking about in pass setting or coming off the ball and striking people, he's got some explosive movement to him that you want to see. But again, here's a guy who's played a ton of football at a high level and has had success with it, and so he's been a huge addition for us. And obviously he was limited a little bit in the spring, but it'd be good again to get those guys working together. That's going to be the biggest thing as we go forward. It's just developing that chemistry and the continuity, consistency within the unit.
You know what that group's supposed to do when a guy smells on offense, your offensive line group. Do you feel like that those 5 guys we've kind of talked about are fully capable of doing everything that offense demands?
Yeah, that's why we got them here. You know what I mean? And that's it's not just those 5 guys, right? We got a bunch of guys who are going into fall camp with an opportunity to show us and show their teammates, more importantly, show each other that they're ready to be guys who can be counted on. You know what I mean? And so it's not just those 5. I mean, it takes a whole unit to get this thing done. But that's why we brought those guys in. You know, and even the new additions. You know, with Josh Raymond and Jalen Matthews. The guys that came in, through the portal there back in May. We're excited about their addition. We're excited about the freshmen that we brought in. That we think are going to be players down the road, but it's going to take the whole unit to get this thing done. So.
Is Andre Otto the guys that you got acquainted with once you got here? Is he a guy that's taken a pretty good step forward and definitely fits into that depth role?
Yeah, 100%. Otto is he's probably, and I think anybody on the team would tell you the same thing, just in terms of his demeanor, his mentality, his approach. Every day he Coach Norvell says, hey, our objective, right, is to get better every day. That's our objective as a program, right? And what does that require? That requires that every day you're kind of but you're bringing your best every day. And that's what Otto tries to do every day. And that's hard. That's not easy to do on a consistent level, right? But that's what Otto tries to bring to the table every day. He tries to bring his best just in everything that he does. His approach, his demeanor, his work ethic, physicality, all of it. So we're excited about him for sure.
Obviously, you're very familiar with the offense as Gus wants to run it, but just from an outsider who's asking, how does tempo impact the way you coach? Like, for example, here years ago, Jimbo Fisher ran one of the slowest tempos. That would be one way. This is another way. How does it impact the way that you prepare the guys?
Well, the first thing is it's something that you have to demand from the get-go, right? So, there's a saying in coaching that you'd rather say whoa than go, okay? So that's how we got to approach it from the start, right? Is that you have to have put the emphasis on the tempo right out the gates, and then if you want to dial it back, you can dial it back. But it's tough to go the other way around. So that's the first part of it. But it's also it starts in our training in the weight room and how we train in the weight room. We're training for that style of play, right? And then it's the tip of the spear here is Coach Norvell, right? His tempo at practice is freaking, and that guy's on go all the time, So it's not just a practice mode or a game mode. It's really a way of life around here, is that everything's done with that tempo in mind. Okay, there are certain things that we have to do schematically. When you're dealing with tempo, and some of the things that we try to accomplish from an offensive perspective in our tempo plays, right? Mm-hmm. But our offense is really built to go at a 2-minute pace the entire game. Why do we do that? Well, you do that to wear the opponent down. You do that to challenge them physically, to challenge their conditioning level, right, to challenge their mental toughness, okay, and staying locked in. But also, sometimes it'll limit what defensive looks you will see because of the speed at which you're operating. So there's a lot of benefits from the tempo standpoint. Now, we also believe in the whole idea of saying we don't ever want to hurry up to screw up, right? Yeah. So there's like a fine line you want to walk in there, right? And that's where the experience level comes in as well with guys. You know, when guys have tremendous level of experience of running offensive systems, right? That helps because they've seen things. They can predict a little bit better what a defense is going to do. But we don't ever want to get in a situation where we're hurrying up to screw up, but we want to press the tempo at all times.
Where do you land on rotating offensive linemen in game? Is that something you've done in your career? Is it something you prefer not to do?
I'm more of a ride or die type guy. So, when I was a player and I earned the opportunity to be the starter, okay, I didn't want anybody taking my reps, right? And now, I also believe in the fact that, hey, if you'd love to have 10 guys that you feel like you can win with. I've never had 10 at one time. There's always been some developmental guys along the way, right? You got to have 8, right? So in our offense, you got to sit there and say, okay, we need to have 3 tackles that we feel like, hey, these guys are ready to go. We need to have 3 guards that we feel like these guys are ready to go. You like to have 2 centers, okay, that you feel like you can win any game with. What happens sometimes is you wind up robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? Because maybe your second center is your starting guard, right? And you're always rotating that way, which that's a whole nother animal in itself, and that's why we got to cross-train some guys, okay? But once you get those positions kind of established, I'm not big into, rotating guys just to rotate guys. Now, if a guy can help us win and he has shown that he can consistently do that, I'm okay if we want to work a guy in to some series and whatnot. Take reps off of other guys, keep the legs fresh for the fourth quarter and for the second half of the season, by sharing some reps. But, if you look at my history as an offensive line coach, probably leans more the opposite way in that, we're ride or die. The guys are going to the guys that have earned the opportunity to be on the field are going to be on the field. We're not just going to rotate to rotate, in other words.